Hey everybody, welcome back to your favorite Gundam podcast, Colony Drop. My name is Isaac.
My name is Brian, and this is a podcast where we talk about anything and everything related to the Gundam franchise. From the movies, to the music, to the models, to the anime, to the live-action film, or to early 2000s CG OVAs, Isaac, such as MS IGLOO.
Absolutely right, Brian. Technically, yes. We all know this isn't an anime, but it's Gundam still, which makes it interesting.
So last week, Isaac, we started our journey back into the One-Year War a little bit. We've been away. We've been far in the future. We've been in alternate universes. We're back home, with the Federation and Zeon on the front lines. And we investigated the world of MS IGLOO, the first OVA in a trilogy of OVAs from the early 2000s, or like mid-2000s, I guess. So this week, we're venturing forth to the second of the three OVAs. This one is called MS IGLOO Apocalypse 0079, and it was released in 2006.
That's right. This follows up directly after MS IGLOO, The Hidden One-Year War. It's got our same cast of characters, right? We got Oliver May, who's sort of the lead engineer. I guess he was assigned by the engineering department of Zeon, and he's part of the mobile evaluation team.
Yeah, the 603rd Technical Evaluation Unit.
Oh, of course. And alongside there is Captain Prochnow and also, I think, Lieutenant Commander Cadillac, right?
Yeah, Monique Cadillac. There's your Gundam name. Gotta have one sports car name.
I'd known about IGLOO for a while. I didn't know the details. I was aware it existed. I was aware that fans were pretty interested in it. But at the same time, even though it was a side story, it hadn't gotten maybe a ton of attention from most fans or casual fans. And it definitely wasn't something that was too high on my list to see, just because, like a lot of fans, my interest is drawn towards series and things that have a longer storyline. But oh boy, Brian, I deserve to be kicked because I really enjoyed MS IGLOO, The Hidden One-Year War, and I really enjoyed MS IGLOO Apocalypse.
Yeah, so those listeners who wrote in and said, hey, Isaac would really like MS IGLOO, you all should watch and review that. You're all vindicated now, because right after we finished the first one, Isaac was like, let's do number 2 next week. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So here we are. So, Isaac, I looked up this. I tried to find a synopsis for this second OVA, and they all kind of suck. They all just basically say, the 603rd team continues to test more weapons. And I was like, that's pretty fair.
To an extent. I would elaborate on that, though. I would say that the 106th team, you said 106, right?
603rd.
Oh, sorry, 600. That's my team. We only test DOMs. Anyways, I would change that to say the 603rd team continues testing various weapons as the war deteriorates in favor of the Federation, and the situation for Zeon looks increasingly grim.
Yes, I think we reach new levels of grim. In fact, we kind of follow them all the way to the end of the war here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, literally to the end. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I really enjoyed this series, Brian. This was a great part 2 of MS IGLOO, and I regret not seeing it sooner because it was great. It was amazing. I had such a good time watching it. Even, I know I'm someone that's only a dub watcher, but man, who cared at this point? It was that good. I was willing to read the subtitles.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's definitely something that if you are a Gundam fan who loves the Universal Century, this is for you. If you're just a Gundam fan who doesn't, maybe you kind of know what a Gundam is, or you've maybe only watched a few episodes here and there, this probably isn't for you. I'll be honest. This is like very much lore building and nitty gritty in trenches with Zeon during the war. So this is not the main course for sure. But if you're a fan of the war, this is where you want to be. This is a great show.
If you're a fan of Zeon, this is the Zeon side story. Sure, it's not animated. It's not a full-blown huge series or anything like that. But man, it is a great Zeon story during the One-Year War.
Yeah, and just like the first one, every episode is pretty standalone. They're digestible. And I think why I like this show is it reminds me a lot of like side story mangas where because every episode is somewhat self-contained, there's always a new character, and I feel like this new character that we see is always there's always going to be someone out there who that character becomes their favorite. Yeah, I just know there's someone out there who loves, for example, the Zegok guy from episode.
Holbein.
Yeah, Werner Holbein.
Yeah.
Or I know there's Herbert Von Kuspen fans out there, despite how maybe Nazi-ish he looks, but
maybe, maybe. I believe he's putting on the Reich, as they say.
Yeah, he may be the most. We'll get to him in a bit. But yeah, this is a great show. I like it.
Just kicking off our story, the team is continuing to test weapons, but the situation on Earth has changed so much that the weapon they're testing now is essentially kind of a stopgap attempt to limit the Federation sending Solomouses into space.
I loved episode 1's title. In the skies of Jabro, I saw the sea. Right away, I was like, oh man, this is going to be good. We're going to Jabro.
Yeah. I also like how just dialogue tells us that the situation's deteriorated. I think right when the episode starts, they're in the hangar bay, right? And May's talking to another engineer, I think, or just another crew member. And the crew member tells him, we're using a Zegok to control this new weapon, the mobile diver. Wow, we must be running out of stuff.
Yeah, you have it both ways, right? You have it exposition-wise because, so right when the episode begins, that we see the Jotunheim's, I'll say like sister ship, sort of the 604th team's ship, the Muspelheim. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that ship blows up and is very near, our Jotunheim. And Captain Prochnow says, the captain of that ship was the best man at my wedding. So that gives you a real sense of weight of like Zeon is pretty tight knit and things are not going well. Like now our team is starting to take personal losses here.
Yeah. Odessa has just ended and almost all the Zeons, if you're not hiding, you had to get off Earth. So
that's about when we see the Zegok thing here. How would you describe the Zegok, Isaac?
I would describe this as a bizarre weapon that reflects how desperate the situation is. This weapon is essentially a long rocket with some weapons attached to it and a mount for a mobile suit that can essentially pilot and control the descent of this rocket from space. The way it works is the Jotunheim will launch this or drop it. This mobile diver will activate its own engines and sort of go into the Earth's atmosphere, descend, and on the way down, if it's timed right, it'll be able to destroy the Solomouses that are being launched from Jabro. So it stops the Solomouses from reaching space while they're vulnerable and essentially moving in a way that they can't maneuver too much because they're trying to leave Earth's gravity. The Zegok mobile diver will be destroying them before they can threaten Zeon in space.
And you know what? It's a crazy idea, but I love it. It's like one of those things you would see a World War II movie made out of. Like this crazy operation, and this team, has this harebrained plan to save the war effort or something. So it's weird, but I really like it.
It reeks of desperation, and originally when I was watching it, we see the first test run, right? The mobile diver, it's going to have a trial by fire. They launch it, it's flying down, it sees one Solomous heading up. I thought to myself, oh, this Solomous is going to be a sitting duck. But no, the Solomous has countermeasures that it fires, and the mobile diver missed its shot. Its missiles amounted to nothing. They didn't do any damage.
Yeah, so our pilot of this thing is Werner Holbein, or maybe Werner. Yeah. He didn't seem very German to me, but...
It's Zeon. Everybody's names are from all over world cultures and, etc.
Yeah.
It's Universal Century, Brian.
Yeah, Werner, he's a bit weird, Isaac.
Yeah, kind of comes off as a lone wolf, and he was really keen on telling that story about his grandfather. Somebody asked him about his necklace, right? Because he had like an arrowhead type thing around his necklace. It's actually a harpoon end.
Right.
And I think it was Washia who asked him about his necklace, or maybe it was Cadillac. And he said, oh, this is my grandfather's necklace. Or my grandfather's spear tip. This is all that's left of him after he died in the ocean fighting a shark.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's still down there. We'd say he's not dead. That's our family tradition. We say he's not dead. He's still down in the water.
Yeah. Well, Shia had a great line. He said, "Oh, well, he can sure hold his breath then, huh?"
Yeah. Werner took it pretty well, though. He didn't really, respond angrily or whatever. He's quite a stoic guy. I think he left the bridge at that point.
There's a big metaphor going on here. You might ask, like, why is there a gawk on this ship? I mean, I guess it could really be any amphibious suit. The image that they're going for is that Zagok is an amphibious suit that dives into the ocean. And to Werner, the atmosphere, the sky, diving into Earth, that's his ocean. And the Zagok does serve somewhat of a practical purpose too, because the way this mobile diver works is it will eventually land in the water and then gets picked up by a GAU carrier, which then takes it back to space, and then it can dive again. But you do get that sort of metaphoric, diving image, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to the Jotunheim crews and the evaluation team's credit, they didn't let that one failure stand in the way, because they send it out again. This time with some upgrades.
They give him what do they call it? The beam spray gun.
Something like that. It was like this awesome, like pre-programmed patterned laser beam though that shot out in multiple directions, kind of like a star.
Yeah, like star-looking gun.
Yeah,
you're right. I don't know.
Very Rafflesia, very flower opening up with lasers.
Yeah, and the third time is also the most dangerous or like most daring flight path, because I think if you remember, the first time they tried to approach the Salamis from the side, and that didn't work. The second time, I think they approached it from a downward angle, and that didn't work either. And the third time, they approached vertically. So if you've watched Origin, in Origin they show the Salamises and the Magellans taking off from Jabro. And they take off they kind of look like a rocket, basically. They just kind of fly straight up with these big boosters, and then they drop the boosters and reach, exit velocity. So the plan here is that they will, as the Salamis and the Magellans are coming up, directly above them will be Mr. Werner here, and he will basically let them pass and then shoot them once he falls behind them. Pretty daring, Isaac.
Yeah, but guess what? It worked. He took him down with that laser. It turned out the gun version of the mobile diver didn't work because they missed. The missile version hit the countermeasures instead of the Salamis, but there's no countermeasures for lasers.
Nope.
So the lasers hit and took down the Salamises, multiple Salamises.
Yeah, he took out 4 Salamises and 1 Magellan with one firing of this beam spray gun. And that thing just like carved these things up. It was like a beam saber that's on for, 10 seconds. And he just kind of cleaved through them and cut them all in half. It was amazing.
Yeah, I can understand the economics of this in a way, right? It's very much the RPG versus the tank.
Yeah.
So no matter what way you cut it, a mobile diver will be infinitely cheaper than the 5 or 4 Salamises it can take out. So for Zeon, at this point in the war, it's a cost-effective solution if it works.
Right.
Unfortunately, Brian, the mobile diver ran into some trouble in the air, didn't it?
It did. On his third and successful attempt, his ride home was intercepted. His GAU carrier was intercepted by some core boosters, and if you don't remember the core boosters, we saw those in the original 0079 movie trilogy. That was kind of like the better version of the core fighter. So the core boosters show up here. They destroy the GAU, and then right after they destroy his GAU, they shoot up Werner, and he falls into the sea, just like his grandfather supposedly did. But then we later find out that his grandpa actually died in a hospital bed.
Yeah, I didn't really get what the whole point or metaphor of the grandfather story was. Maybe you can enlighten me on that. But yeah, I mean, even I think Washia, or maybe it's Cadillac, said, oh, I guess for him the truth was that his grandfather died fighting that shark.
Yep. Yeah, I took it just as he's someone who prefers to believe in the grander story, the more fitting story, the fantasy story. Maybe he aims high. I mean, look at this guy. This is a crazy operation. This dude's aiming high.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Ultimately, this kind of put the nail in the coffin, no pun intended, of the mobile diver project.
Yeah, but his 3 attempts, I'd say it's worth it. He took out 5 capital ships.
Yeah, it's just the mobile diver is great against capital ships if you can pull off a maneuver like he did and have the mobile diver, the version that has lasers. But other than that, it's going to be useless against mobile suits and core boosters trying to take it down in the air.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest loss is they lost that beam spray gun, right?
Right. I don't know how many of those they had or if they could actually mass produce those, but too little too late now.
Yeah. So the Jotunheim moves on to test another weapon, and we say goodbye to yet another original character. So we salute you, Werner Holbein. You made your grandpa proud. By the way,
Yeah.
the mobile diver had this adorable swordfish logo on its shoulder. Did you notice that?
Yeah. I think they even spent some time there's for a quick second they actually show the crew putting it on, right?
Oh, do they? Yeah. I love
Yeah.
the swordfish logo.
It looks pretty cool. I liked it.
So on to episode 2, Isaac. This one was called Cross the Path of Light. In here, you're immediately introduced to the new weapon, and you immediately know that the war is not going well.
Oh my god. Yeah. Brian, this war oh man. I don't even know how to I have to pull myself together and for the name of Zeon. Okay. Okay, listeners. At the start of this weapon, once again, May is appearing in front of the head of the engineering department, who explains to him that the situation's bad, and he's going to be testing a new weapon they've put together and have been working on. It's not a mobile suit, though, Brian. What is it?
It is called the Mobile Pod Ogo. Or Ago? Oh, how do you say it? I say Ogo.
I say Ogo, because it rhymes with oh no. Which is what you say when you look at it and you're being told you're going to pilot it.
Yes. Oh, man. So the destroyer mobile pods, Zeon has started to mass produce them for the coming battle, which we all know will eventually be A Baoa Qu. At this point, they're not really sure if the battle is going to be at A Baoa Qu or at Granada. But this episode takes place, I think, on December 28th, which is after Zeon's defeat at Solomon, but before their defeat at A Baoa Qu.
Right.
So they're already low on mobile suits, probably. A lot of people died at Solomon. So enter the mobile pod, the supposed solution to this. So if you think back, right, listeners, episode 1, we saw the Jormungand or whatever it was, the big cannon, right?
Right.
Great weapon. Then in the next episode we saw the tank, super cool weapon. Then we saw the Zuda, super cool suit. And then episode 1 here we saw the mobile diver getting a bit desperate. Yeah. And now we're hitting the mobile pod. Now we've reached full desperation.
Brian, is it me or does the Ogo look like a colony escape pod with weapons attached?
It does.
Yeah. If you remember it, they're essentially cylinders, sort of rounded cylinders like those fuel tankers you see sometimes on being pulled by trains or on the highway. This is essentially it with a cockpit in the middle, and then they slap some guns to the sides. There's some mechanical arms underneath it, and that's it.
While it's not a flashy design by itself, I appreciate that it is a little bit Zeonified, right? It's got the mono eye. Even the pods have the mono eye.
Yeah.
And it does use Zaku weaponry. Did you notice that it was holding like the Zaku machine gun?
Yeah, they made a point to say, I think the engineering guys said that they essentially slapped their existing weapons on it because that's all they have. And if they're able to get any more, they'll send them to May.
Yeah. So this is basically Zeon's answer to the ball, probably the most embarrassing weapon that the Federation has ever rolled out. So the Federation went from having the ball to the GM. The Zeon is going backwards, right? They had the Zaku and all the great suits. Now we're getting the Ogo. So clearly something's wrong.
Yeah.
So after we're introduced to the Ogo, a silver Gelgoog lands on the Jotunheim, Isaac. And who gets out?
Who gets out is a man named Kuspen. He is a very headstrong officer, very commanding personality, and unfortunately for Captain Prochnow and for Cadillac, he outranks them both. So finally there's someone on the ship that nobody can match in rank because he's there to tell them what to do now that we're here at the final battle. He specifically tells them that, yes, we will continue collecting data, but ultimately we're going to be doing combat. So everybody's going to have to listen to him from now on. And in case listeners aren't aware, Kuspen is to a degree infamous in Gundam fandom because his character was designed to look like the spitting image of an SS officer from Germany during World War II. He's got that full trench coat, and he's even got like a little cap that you don't see too many Zeon officers wearing.
Yeah, he literally looks like you opened a World War II textbook.
Yeah.
And this guy stepped out.
Right, yeah.
When I first saw him, I was like, well, that's a little on the nose.
Yeah. But, I mean, to Kuspen's credit, as we see throughout the episode, I wouldn't say he's a terrible Zeon guy.
No, I don't think so. The one interesting thing that I did note is he is very happy when the solar ray fires, whereas I think May and Cadillac maybe were a little more reserved.
I think he was more aware that not only did it exist, but it was going to fire. May and Cadillac might not have been as up to date on the details and information as him, since he outranks them. And he's clearly been sent there for combat reasons and as part of the final preparations for battle.
And he has a great line in this episode. Prochnow or someone asks him, well, how are we going to fight? And he says, well, all the heroes have been burned in Solomon. And then there's this quick flash of what I think is implied to be the solar system firing at Solomon. Did you notice that?
Yeah, we see a silhouette of Solomon. It's white. You can barely make out, well, not barely, but you can see the outline of Solomon. So we know what's happening.
Yeah. But Kuspen says that, the new elites will arrive, to take those heroes' places.
Oh, boy.
Who are those elite pilots coming to save the day? Coming to save the Kuspen squadron?
Well, like a lot of Zeon fans and eager watchers, I thought, okay, we're going to get some cool aces here in the home stretch before the 1 year war ends. This is going to be a ragtag group of like tough guys that the Zeon picked to pilot the Ogos. But no, Brian, we cut to the hangar bay and a group of teenagers are there lined up in rows in their little Zeon uniforms, ready to greet Kuspen, who is shocked to meet them and shocked to see that they're a bunch of teenagers. And they tell him, or at least one of them does, that they're actually volunteers, Brian.
They're out here fighting for their nation, and they're proud of it. And I think Kuspen, he asked them, I think, 3 questions, and they're like in increasing severity with an accusatory tone of like, why are you so young and inexperienced? And I think his last one is, have you ever even seen the enemy? And they basically say no, but we're still ready to fight. And that gave me a good laugh.
Yeah. This kind of, it's very very Germany in the last days of World War II, right? A bunch of children and teenagers fighting the fight. So I can see where this was drawn from. It just shows too how damaging Zeon has been, brainwashing its own people and its the children of its own colonies into fighting this war to the bitter end. And even Kuspen, to an extent, I'm sure he had reservations and maybe regrets about having children fight for him. It's not ideal.
I took it that he knew that it wasn't going to go well, but that he is so headstrong, he just pushes forward, right? Without letting on,
right,
that anything is going to go badly. But if you think about it on its face, this is a recipe for disaster. So not only you have mobile pods, which clearly those aren't going to work out, and now they're going to be piloted by teenagers.
Yeah.
So, maybe if you had the teenagers, but maybe they were aided by some great technology, maybe they'd be a little more even. But here you've got, it just, I knew a lot of death was about to happen, Isaac.
Yeah, I think Kuspen clearly would have wanted one of 2 situations. Either he'd be okay with the Ogos if they were piloted by experienced pilots, or he'd be okay with the teenagers if they were given quality mobile suits. But he got neither. Right. He got snake eyes. But speaking of headstrong, Brian, who is among these teenage volunteers?
Maybe the most outspoken of the volunteers is Lieutenant Commander Monique Cadillac's younger brother, Erwin Cadillac. So, well, that was a curveball.
Didn't see that coming. Uh-oh.
And so he's going out in the first squadron of pods. We get into a little skirmish, Isaac. Some Salamises approach. And there's a lot of Salamises. Can I just say that? I think Or how many Salamuses has the Jotunheim evaded so far? I feel like
dozens.
We come upon them all the time. It's a scary world out there.
Not only that, Brian, but these are MS IGLOO Salamuses, so they fly like a bat out of hell. All right, these things move quick. I don't know what happened in the animated series, but these things essentially are moving at like Mach 12.
Yeah, these things haul ass for sure.
Nobody walks in these Salamuses. Everyone's strapped in.
Yeah, you better put your damn seatbelt on.
Yeah.
Then this episode becomes a 6-on-6 duel, Isaac, between 6 balls from those 2 Salamuses and 6 of the Ogo pods.
Yeah.
I had to pause the show and be like, this is incredibly novel, very dangerous, but hilarious at the same time.
Yeah. I was thinking, okay, based on the communications with the Federation, they're newbies too. They're rookie pilots too in the balls. You know, why else would they be sent to the moon when the whole main attack force is heading towards A Baoa Qu, right?
Right.
And at the same time, I was also thinking, okay, the little brother of one of the main characters is here. This can only have a tragic ending. Did you see this coming from a mile away, Brian?
Absolutely. This is a Gundam show.
Yeah.
Someone's dying, for sure. As soon as they introduced him as a private or whatever his rank is, Cadillac, I was like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah.
He's dying today. He's going to get in that pod and he's dying.
Even she thought so, though, because I think when he and like the first squad are going out, she says something like they're going to become driftwood or something. So that's not that's not the language of victory.
No, it's not. But that said, before the inevitable happens, they do put up a pretty good fight. I think when Kuspen or whoever was first introducing the Ogos, they did specifically say that the Ogos are better than the balls, that they perform better than the Federation's balls. And I think we saw that on display.
Yeah. I mean, despite their lack of training and maybe because of their zeal, the Ogos essentially wipe out the balls. They lose a few Ogos too, but Erwin really shows that he's pretty great in the Ogo, and he's dueling one. It looks like they're, maybe going to end up destroying each other or whatever because he runs out of ammo, so it becomes just a grappling duel, sort of like Outlaw Star.
Yeah.
And
I did get a lot of Outlaw Star vibes from the Ogos.
Yeah. Just the arms, right? Yeah.
Which, that's probably the highest compliment that you could pay an Ogo, is that it reminds you of Outlaw Star.
Yeah.
I can't think of another great thing to say about the Ogo.
No, because like for where the person sits, they're just too wide.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was watching this and I was like, wow, Erwin lived. He even took a prisoner and they're going to take him back to the Jotunheim. But sadly, Brian, it was not to be. And also, my God, the Federation abandoned the balls to their fate. They took off.
Yeah, that whole thing at the end with Erwin, it was another step in the direction of painting Zeon as sympathetic and the Federation as the bad guys, right?
Yeah.
Erwin kind of ended his duel with this last ball because they were both out of ammo, and he said, what's the point of this? We're both out of ammo. We don't both need to die. Just come back with us, and it will at least live that way. So he's dragging him back, and like you said, I thought it was going to be a happy ending. I was like, oh, look, we solved our differences with words, children.
Yeah.
we didn't have to resort to violence. And then they're reflecting, I think, oh, that's so sad. The Salamuses, where are they? They abandoned the balls, but they didn't abandon them, like you said. Instead, they looped around the moon. Was it the moon? Or wherever they were?
Right.
And they came from behind, and they shot up Erwin. But not only did they shoot up Erwin, they shot up the last ball pilot, too. So they killed their own man just to kill Erwin.
Clearly, these officers went to the... As you recall, Brian, there's 2 Federation officer academies. There's the Bright Noah Academy for gentlemanly officers and the Basque Oma Academy for genocidal atrocity officers.
Yes, for crimes against humanity officers.
Yes, and this Salamis captain went there because he's going to kill anybody that retreats, anybody that surrenders.
So Cadillac is just completely distraught now. Like, she's shot, basically.
Yeah.
Her driftwood prediction came true. And it came true pretty hard. Now, if it was any consolation, those Salamuses did get their comeuppance immediately as Isaac's favorite Zeon heiress flew by in her Guazine, and her forces just annihilated these Salamuses. That was satisfying to see, right?
Yeah, good to see the Granada forces, or what's left of them at least, coming to the rescue and saving the day. But, by then, Irwin was gone, and the mood on the bridge of the Jotunheim was just so much more dour. To Kuspen's credit, as much as he was introduced as a card-carrying villain with his little trench coat and all that, he seemed pretty happy that Irwin was going to live until he didn't.
Yeah, and I think overall he was pleased with the Ogo's performance.
Yeah, despite his appearance, Kuspen comes off as pretty reasonable looking. And you know what I just realized? That keychain you gave me a long time ago in high school, it's one of Kuspen's medals.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the one he wears around his neck.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
The Zeon cross, which is befitting my rank, of course. I was given that medal by Brian and Dagwin.
Yep. There you go.
For my work with the Doms. But anyway, back to the series.
You broke so much new ground in the Dom research
I know.
field.
I was like, all right, they need to be thicker. Their feet need to be bigger. All right, I want those bell bottoms to be bell bottoms.
Isaac was all about the thick train before thick was popular.
Yeah, I was like, all right, we got to put more in that caboose.
We need wide bases.
Double it up.
Here.
I want it to look like a diaper full of pudding.
Speaking of wide bases and thick mobile suits, Isaac, after that depressing episode, we march right into the Battle of A Baoa Qu with episode 3, Spirits Returning to the Cries of Thunder. I don't know what that means, but it's going to be a rough episode for our heroes here. So we open up, and Girin's in the middle of his speech. Didn't think we'd get to hear Girin's speech.
Yeah, me neither. So the situation's about ready to start. We even see the Delos getting ready for battle.
Yeah, I knew you'd like that Delos cameo.
Yeah, it's big. Some might even say too big for its own good.
For more on the Delos gear, go listen to our episode on capital ships of the 1 Year War.
Yeah.
Isaac has a lot of colorful things to say about the Delos gear.
Yeah, it's let's just say sometimes you bite off more than you can chew.
So Girin's given his spiel, saying that the bright light that everyone just witnessed, he's referring to the solar ray, is proof that the Zeon's cause is just. And that's when we meet the mobile armor of this episode, Isaac, that we will be testing, called the Big Rang, which, man, that's a weird name. This thing is a behemoth. It's a mobile armor whose purpose is to deliver weapons to the mobile pods, to the Ogos, in battle, and kind of like resupply, refuel, repair them. How would you describe this thing? It's like its little control module is basically a separate mobile armor called the Big Row, which we all know and love from the original 0079.
Right.
So a Big Row is attached to like this bigger thing. How would you describe that thing?
It's essentially like a large skirt. If you remember, listeners, the Nightingale, if you remember, has a kind of a big skirt, right? A long kind of billowing skirt, almost like a wedding wedding dress that trails behind it.
Yeah.
It's essentially that. So it's got like this circus tent shaped thing underneath it that's kind of extends backwards behind the mobile armor and is connected at a narrow point. It's kind of like a neck right underneath the mobile armor. And yes, it looks large and impressive, and I'm sure it's able to, carry a lot of weapons and such. But May quickly points out that the whole point of that mobile armor is that it was designed for speed in mind. So attaching this thing to it really negates a lot of the benefits that a mobile armor has.
I thought that was a great character moment for him because it really does show that, hey, he's an engineer.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you don't need that line for the episode to work, but I thought that was good.
Yeah. Even as fans, though, like you look at it initially, right? Anytime we see a mobile armor, we're always kind of impressed and stuff, right? We always think it's going to be cool and stuff. But the fact that this was kind of a mashup, I think to fans, it did make most fans kind of stop and think, wow, that's a good point. That thing's not going to be able to move too quick after all.
Yeah, and it doesn't. I mean, this thing is like the Nicki Minaj of mobile armors, right? It's got this huge ass, but it's like all fake underneath because the skirt is like empty and it's just a bay for the Ogos to dock and like get automatically repaired.
Right. And unfortunately, I know they tried hard, but the engineering department made this so that it can only really refit one at a time, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't clear. Did we ever see multiple in there at a time? I felt like there was space, but maybe A lot of Ogos were dying in this battle, so I'm not sure that
Yeah.
they ever had the chance. But
I really just remember one. It looked like one gets on the conveyor belt, goes down underneath the skirt, and the mechanical arms inside the skirt refit it, reload it, and send it on its way. It doesn't look like a ton of Ogos can fit in there at once.
it was a novel idea, and we've talked about mobile suits repairing other mobile suits before.
Yeah.
Maybe this demonstrates why that's not a great idea.
Also, for all we know, it might not have worked as well with mobile suits since they're Ogos. This might have been something that can only work with something that's limbless like an Ogo and small.
Yeah, simple shapes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The battle's about to start. The Federation fleet is basically arriving at A Baoa Qu or areas around A Baoa Qu. Our heroes are sort of defending this one particular. What do they call it? They call it the field.
Enfield, I think. Yeah, they've been assigned to Enfield, which it doesn't seem like it's directly in the path of the enemy, but it's close enough.
Yeah, it becomes important later on in the episode.
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily on the front lines. But the fleet is still coming. I think they say the fleet outnumbers the Zeon fleet 6-1. So you're outnumbered 6-1, and you've got the Ogos. It's going to be a good day.
You don't just have the Ogos, O'Brien, because this is the final battle. The Zudas are out there too. Don't forget that. And even Kuspen is ready to do his part.
Yep, even Kuspen launches in that silver Gelgoot. We finally get to see that thing in action.
Yeah.
They leave the Big Rang, and May is piloting the Big Rang. I think Cadillac was supposed to pilot it, but she's still upset about her brother, so she's like not in a good mental state. So Cuspen's like, "Oh, May, you're gonna do it." Or is it Proch now, or May, or Cuspen that tells May he has to do it?
I think it was Kuspen, because I think Kuspen has control at that point. But poor Cadillac, I think she's only communicating from video at this point through her room, right? She refuses to leave her quarters. She doesn't even doing her hair anymore. she's understandably in mourning.
Yeah. Very understandable, of course. So they leave May behind, and then they go break through the Federation fleet to kind of get behind them. But now the Federation fleet's starting to attack, and I think at this point the Jotunheim, they're not alone, right? They had some Musai escorts.
Yeah.
And I just, like, their whole plan was to break through the fleet and get behind them, but they lost all their Musai escorts on the way to doing that. So I was a little confused, like, was it really worth it? I don't know.
I don't think so. I mean, how could it have been? Yeah, even if there's a limit to what the Jotunheim can do, there's a limit to what the Ogos can do, even if they're supported by the Big Rag. It's this was a hope and a prayer. This was a Hail Mary at best.
Yeah. So things are not looking good for the Jotunheim. They're getting... And the Ogos, they're kind of getting beaten down by these Salamises. And then all of a sudden, the Big Rang comes from behind, and May fires his particle cannons, and he takes out 3 Salamises, Isaac, like right away. I was like, oh, wow. He's like up there on the ace pilot kill list now.
Yeah.
3 ships.
To May's credit, I mean, yeah, he's an engineer, but apparently if you give him the right thing, he's pretty damn good at his job.
Yeah. Now, he's piloting a little recklessly here, because I don't think he's really... a pilot, I guess.
Right. Plus, ultimately, the Big Rang is there to support the Ogos.
Right. But he's not necessarily using it like that. I think he's probably going out a little bit too far. Although there's a great scene where he grabs a ball with his like big Rang claw, and then he throws it, and it hits other balls, and it's like a pinball, and it takes out a bunch of balls. I loved that. I thought that was hilarious.
Those poor balls.
They stand no chance. If you're a ball pilot, and you look at the Big Rang, why would you not just fly the other way?
Yeah, say you're being jammed or something like that, and you end up like I don't know, hiding in a part of the battlefield that's like maybe less populated.
Right.
I don't know. Essentially, I'm advocating desertion.
Well, I don't think you're really going to make an impact. It might be a smarter use of your resources to come back or target someone else. Besides,
there's enough space type gyms that show up at this battle.
Yeah, the gyms are out in full force, and they're having a good showing, kind of like they did in the episode with the Zuda.
Yeah, they look great.
May's already taken out 3 Salamises with his particle cannon. He then takes out 2 more Salamises with his missiles, Isaac. This guy's got 5 Salamises under his belt now. And it's been, I don't know, a few minutes, maybe. That's a lot.
Hey, that's the power of mobile armors.
And then the ultimate test comes. A Magellan approaches. He shoots it with his cannon. He totally takes out the Magellan. But then they collide. And it gives you a sense of size of the Big Rang. When they collide, the Big Rang is basically the same size as the Magellan. That's huge.
Yeah, it is massive.
Yeah, I did not realize that it was that big until that happened.
Me neither. I thought it was smaller. I thought it might be a little smaller than a Salamis. I was trying to visualize, okay, where exactly is the cockpit in it, and how small would maybe relative looking at the outside. And I was way off. This thing is essentially a mobile armor pulling a factory.
Yeah, it is enormous. I'm trying to think of like the other mobile armors we've seen. The Neo Zeo was pretty big. I wouldn't say it was bigger than like a Magellan though.
No.
This thing is bigger than Neo Zeo. I mean, I guess it's
Absolutely.
shaped a little bit differently, but
Yeah, but if you remember the Neue Zeal, it died by crashing into, I think, a Salamis or a Magellan. So by default, it was smaller than it.
yeah. So after he takes out the Magellan, I think that's when he first starts resupplying the Ogos. Although we've lost, I think, 7 Ogos at this point, so the Ogo team's not doing well.
Yeah.
Then the turning point comes, Isaac. There are some friendlies headed back. A Zeon fleet is approaching. And they think that's a little weird, and they check in, and we eventually realize that they must be, or is it Prochnow that basically realizes immediately that they must be fleeing? And Kuspen is not too pleased at this, but then they get a communication from A Baoa Qu command saying they no longer have the ability to command, and basically you should act with your best judgment.
Yeah, I thought this was a really interesting scene, especially since the ship we see leading its little small fleet away, Brian, it was a Guazine.
It was. Who do you think was in that Guazine, Isaac?
Brian, I think we're thinking the same person. I think Delaz is in that Guazine getting the heck out of Dodge.
Has to be Delaz. There's not that many Guazines that survive the 1 Year War. And we know that he left after he found out that Caecilia killed Girin. And he has a Guazine. So, I don't know. If the shoe fits, Isaac.
Delaz fleet, day one. Be passing by the Jotunheim.
Yep, waving hello.
We'll see you guys later.
The Jotunheim has really done a who's who of Zeon here. Remember in the first episode, we saw Dagwin fly by and give him that little fake, you're doing a great job, guys. And we saw him fly next to Caecilia last episode, and now we're seeing Delaz, or who I presume is Delaz.
Yeah, it's somebody that's pretty important later on, but right now it's a bad omen if a Guazine's leaving the battlefield and Zeon announces they don't have military command over the battlefield anymore, and each ship or each fleet should do what they think is best. And I think we even see the Delos get destroyed.
We did. I was gonna ask if you caught that. We do see one of the Delos gears going down. I think we talked about how there were only like 2 made during the war. I think.
Right, and think they were both there and both sunk at the same battle.
Yeah, so you get to see one sink here, which is pretty neat.
Right.
Not that they focus on it really of any significant time, but it was a good nod if you knew what it was. There was a lot of chevets in these 3 episodes as well. Did you notice those?
Yeah, and they show them as being pretty powerful. You know, unlike Musai's, I think they were definitely fewer in number, but if I remember correctly, their weapons were much more capable.
They really motor along too.
Yeah. I don't know if maybe they actually weren't that good later on, because you never see Neo Zeon or Delaz ever use them. So.
No, they're a little dorky looking compared to the Musai's, but
a bit of a chunky type ship.
And then we get sort of a second battle. They collectively decide to kind of defend the escape route for Zeon forces that have to now flee A Baoa Qu. So our end field that our team was defending, while it wasn't the front lines, it has now become sort of the middle of the escape route for the Zeon. So they're going to stay behind and try to fend off the Federation as best they can. But like Isaac said, there's a lot of space GMs out here.
Yeah, and the situation starts deteriorating. They lose a few more Ogos. I think we start to see the Big Rag taking a lot more damage, right? We even see Kuspen get shot up, and it looks like he dies. The captain has like a real shocked expression, right, when we see Kuspen take all that machine gun fire to his chest.
Yeah, Kuspen actually, I guess I should say, this last battle here, it had some interesting animation. I don't want to call it blurry, but it wasn't super clear cut.
Yeah, it was the rush and heat of battle.
Yeah. I mean, just in general, this whole episode did a fantastic job of showing how frenetic the Battle of A Baoa Qu was.
Yes.
GMs and Zaku's were surviving for mere seconds out there. It was a bloodbath.
Right, yeah. A Zaku shoots one GM, and then that Zaku gets shot. Or they had that cool little fight where, like, I think a Zaku cut into a gym shield with a Heat Hawk, and then the gym like threw the shield or killed the Zaku, but then the gym got killed right after.
Yeah, it was a nightmare, man. I mean,
Yeah, people are dying out there within seconds.
yeah, you'd be lucky to survive 30 seconds, and what a waste of military hardware on both sides. I mean, the dollars were really adding up there. But yeah, you're right. I believe an Ogo is about to get shot, and Kuspen jumps in the way and just is riddled with machine gun fire. Which I can't, was it from a GM or from a ship? I don't remember.
I don't think it was from a ship, but actually, I'm not sure. I'm not even sure Cuspin knows. He just remembers. I just remember him looking so shocked that he actually took a ton of machine gun fire to his Gelgoog's center chest.
Yeah, he just took it straight up in the face, and yeah, he blew up. He died.
No, he lived.
And Kuspen? No, he's KIA.
He lived at the end.
No, that was a different Gelgoog.
Oh, are you sure that white Gelgoog coming back?
I looked it up because I did not. Because when I saw that Gelgoog come back, I was like, that can't be Kuspen. I was like, that dude died.
So there was another white silver Gelgoog at the end that went to the Jotunheim.
Yes.
That's terrible.
Kuspen is confirmed KIA, and I think it's because the one at the end was supposed. And this is what I'm saying: the series has like a drab color tone, so it's very hard to tell the difference between Kuspen's custom silver Gelgoog and the normal gray Gelgoog. And I'm pretty sure what we saw at the end of the show was a gray Gelgoog, not Kuspen's silver one.
Oh,
because if you notice, the one at the end did not have all the custom paint jobs with all the double zeros everywhere.
Oh man, Brian, this whole time I thought Kuspen lived. I thought he took machine gun fire to his chest, right? And maybe, his mobile suit took damage. Sure, the Gelgoog lost comms. That's why Prochnow, looks so shocked. And they didn't hear from him till the end when he flew back with the surviving Ogos and with May, who managed to eject or at least get out of his big rag before it blew up.
Yeah, I regret to inform you that Kuspen is confirmed KIA. So
you never should have told me, Brian. This is our last episode.
Isaac's throwing his mic away right now.
Yeah, and I have to get my Kuspen body pillow.
Herbert, come back to me.
Yeah, it's right next to my Dagwin body pillow.
I still believe Herbert.
He's like, he gave me his medal.
Yeah, I guess we should say that to your point. So Cadillac did kind of eventually get over her shell shock of having her brother die, and she did end up going out in Azuda. She did end up saving May, because there was a GM that got pretty smart and decided to go under the Big Rang's skirt and try to do some damage under there, which is actually a great idea. But Cadillac got him out before that happened and blew up the gym. So that was a fun moment, I thought. Just showing that she was back in full control of her faculties.
Yeah, she had to get a little bit of action in the final battle. She earned it.
Yeah, but it doesn't really go that well for the Big Rang. It gets blown up, like you said. And we're kind of left for a little bit wondering what the heck happened to everybody. And it's kind of just Prochnow sitting there in the Jotunheim, kind of like, okay, did everyone die? And he's like, oh, okay, well, this was our last battle. And then we see a few Zakus, I think, right? A few
Something
Ogos.
like that. Yeah, we definitely see Ogos come back. Maybe just a handful. The Zudas come back. I think the Zudas all lived.
Well, see, I had a question on that too, because I watched it 3 times. I only saw one Zuda come back, and it was Cadillac's, and she was carrying May in her hand, who somehow, the Big Rang pretty much blew up, or was hit with heavy fire. I guess May ejected and somehow lived through the debris and the shrapnel. So she's carrying May in her hand. But I did not see Washia there in his Zuda, because he would have been in the other one, right? And so I was concerned that he died, but then I looked it up and he was confirmed to survive. So I guess they just didn't show his Zuda coming back.
Yeah. Or he ejected, maybe. We don't know.
Yeah, it could be. So it's kind of backwards, right? You don't see Washia Zuda coming back. He survived. You see a Gelgoog that looks kind of like Kuspen's, but he did not survive, and he's dead.
It looks exactly like Kuspen. Until a few minutes ago, I was under the impression Kuspen lived.
Yeah, I think they could have... I do not think it was necessary to include that Gelgoog at the end if it was not Kuspen's, but apparently he's dead. And it's not.
Would it have killed him to make it a teal Gelgoog?
So, I mean, what do you think of Kuspen's Gelgoog? When I looked at it, I thought it was supposed to be white, which, if you know some stuff about Zeon pilots, Shin Matsunaga is normally the Zeon ace pilot that uses a white color scheme. But it's actually supposed to be silver. I did not get a silver feel from this. To me, it looks gray.
No, the first time you see it, it's white, maybe whitish gray. Definitely not silver. Silver, as we all know, has a metallic sheen to it. This was a white mobile suit.
Yeah, I agree. So I think they could have given it some shine if it was supposed to be silver. That could have avoided the confusion at the end, I think.
If they want to make it white, just keep it white. Just don't, confuse us. If he died, we need to see a different color Gelgoog come back. Not even close to the same color.
Yeah, I agree. I would have liked to seen a little more out of Kuspen. He didn't get too much battle screen time in that Gelgoog. I thought it would have been nice to see him. Maybe even like 30 more seconds of him. I think he shot down a few gems or balls, or he shot some balls, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, Kuspen came off as a really good guy. I ended up liking him. I think he should have had more of a hero's death, pretty much what you're saying. Maybe he can die covering them or something like that, right?
He did sacrifice himself to save an Ogo.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not really worth it, but that's what, I mean, it was somewhat noble.
Yeah, I mean, he's a young guy. The Ogo's a teenager. He probably figured, you know what, let this kid live.
Right. So, somewhat of a happy ending for at least our heroes. Not for Zeon, obviously they lost the war, but May's alive, Washi is alive, Cadillac's alive, Prochnow's alive. That's pretty good.
Yeah, this had more of a happier ending than I thought. I initially thought they were going to die to the last man. Very right. Zeonic in a way, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, especially given how pretty much every episode before this one had ended with sort of the new character for the episode dying. When the big rang blew up, I thought that was kind of it. I was like, oh, wow, they actually did it. They're going to kill the cast.
Yeah, I imagined Cadillac would follow her brother and die gloriously in battle. Prochnow would have some final scene where he's, talking in his head slowly while his ship burns. And May would go down thinking about Data as he runs out of oxygen or something.
Sending the last report.
Yeah, to whoever's still listening or recording.
So Isaac, we've now finished the second OVA. I believe the third OVA called MS IGLOO 2 Gravity Front. It shifts perspectives a little bit. I don't think we join these characters again, but we'll find out.
No.
You're probably a little disappointed on that. But what did you think of MS IGLOO Apocalypse 0079?
I thought it was great. I thought it was a great ending to these characters. We've only been with them for 6 episodes, but these were 6 great episodes. They were really fully developed characters, I thought. None of them came off as annoying or over-the-top villainous. They really humanized Zeon's side of the war. And I'm glad that some of them lived, some of them didn't, but ultimately this was a great story, great writing. Yeah, it's not animation as we know it. It was, computer-generated OVA. But I really enjoyed it, Brian.
I agree. I thought it was excellent just from start to finish. I think these second 3 episodes maybe weren't as flashy as the first 3, but they definitely got more into the nitty-gritty of the war instead of, flashy weapons, I think. I really liked the characters. I think Prochnow was probably my favorite character.
Really? Wow.
Who was your favorite?
Wow, that's hard to say.
Was it Kuspen?
No.
Are you the guy?
No, not Kuspen. I'd say May and Cadillac.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're pretty interesting. But so many of our one-off characters, I forgot the name of the tank pilot. What was his name?
Sonnen.
Sonnen was cool, especially he essentially had to fight a battle by himself.
Yeah.
A whole being a little too reserved, I guess, for my taste.
He was pretty kooky, but yeah.
Yeah, but man, it was just a great story overall. And I did a little bit of reading. May ends up going to Axis. If what I read is accurate. He continues the fight.
Interesting. I would have pegged him for someone who would get out of the war after all this.
He lived the rest of his days, maybe teaching engineering at the Republic of Zeon.
at the Axis Academy. What if, Isaac? What if he helped develop the Neue Zeal?
Hey, it's possible, right? It came from Axis. For all we know,
Yeah.
he took a lot of big ring data and put it into it. He said, if I could, if I could redesign the big ring, I would have made it like the Neue Zeal, so I could have won that battle.
I wouldn't have made the ass so big.
The fact that he ended up at Axis, I wonder if if Delaz's fleet leaving, if maybe they, instead of just trying to sneak out of there, they sent a more clear message to the Jotunheim to come along with them. If the Jotunheim would have said yes.
Yeah, probably. I mean, you don't really have a better... What's a better plan than that? Because that was one thing I was curious to get your take on. The whole episode was leading up to them defending the escape route, right? So that the Zeon ships could flee back to Side 3. But in my mind, I was like, what are they really going to do when they get back to Side 3? The Federation's just going to keep flying to Side 3.
Right. Well, I think the plan originally, from what I remember Caecilia saying, was actually the plan was to regroup at Granada. So not that would have made too much of a difference, but and now that I think about it, I assume the message that went out to the Jotunheim about each ship or each fleet determine what you want to do, that must have come actually after they lost contact with Caecilia's Zanzibar, because she was still in command once Giran died, but once she died and got killed by Shar, I assume at that point whoever was underneath her or next in command probably just said, you know what, all the zombies are gone, I should probably get out of here and tell each fleet to make up their own mind about what to do.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because at that point they had no command structure. So
right. I mean, if an admiral like Delaz can take his fleet and leave, I wonder if other fleets left by that point. Maybe some went to Axis, some went straight back to Side 3, or maybe some tried booking it and going somewhere else in the Earth sphere.
Maybe that was when the first guy went to Mars. And they were like, I've always wanted to make this volcano gun. Who wants to join me? Let's fly there right now.
I wouldn't be surprised if a fleet took that time to say, hey, let's head to Mars.
They won't get us there.
I'm so glad you picked up on that it was Delaz.
Well, I feel like it has to be, right? Because otherwise there's no real other reason to put a Guazine there in that shot.
You could have done a bunch of Musais or a Chevet or even a group of Papuas or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the Guazine were like, okay, we all remember a Guazine and a group of Musai fleeing a battlefield. We know who they are.
Yeah, totally. I really enjoyed that lore bomb.
I think Delaz would have taken them in too. As soon as he heard that they had like teenage recruits or something, he would have been all for it. He would have been like, definitely come with us.
Yeah, why not? Especially if you had this guy, Oliver May, who has all this test data for cool stuff.
Yeah, he probably said, you know what, I'm going to need your help. I got this really wacky plan.
I got this plan. It involves bouncing some colonies off each other. Can you do it?
You won't believe how many plans are within this plan.
We're also going to rely on the Federation not putting keys on its Gundams for the next 3 years.
It worked out. It paid off. If only the Ogos paid off, Brian, because they were flying coffins to an extent.
Oh, the driftwood of the 1 Year War.
You remember that scene where Irwin's talking to Cadillac in the hangar bay and he's like wearing lederhosen?
Yeah, it was a little strange. Yeah,
a little too on the nose. Yes, bit. We know Zeon is very much like Germany back during World War II, but man, I was thinking about that and I was like, why is he wearing civilian clothes? And then I remembered, he's a volunteer. So maybe at this point in the war, they're like, he only has one uniform that they gave him, and then maybe they're washing it. So
let him wear it.
Yeah, he's like, just wear your lederhosen. It's okay. You're a volunteer.
Look, if you volunteer to pilot an Ogo, you know what? You get to wear whatever you want, pal.
You can wear whatever you can sit naked in your cockpit.
Yeah. Yeah.
During combat.
You brave soul, you get into that cylinder of death.
Man, I had to say too that the Ogos were a very not Zeonic color. They were like construction orange.
Yeah, pretty drab.
Maybe they were used in construction at some point or originally. I don't know.
They definitely look like they would be like colony builder robots.
It was a tube of doom, a toilet paper roll of doom.
The doom tubes.
The cardboard on the inside.
All right, Isaac, are you ready to rate Apocalypse 0079?
I sure am, Brian.
I'm going to give it let's see, on my 10-point horror scale, I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed it.
Interesting, Brian. As we all know, I use a scale of 5, and I will give MS IGLOO Apocalypse 0079 a score of 5 out of 5 horros. It is a must-see for all fans, definite must-see for Zeon fans. It's a great ride, great writing, great story, and it's a fun time.
That's 2 5 out of 5s in a row from Isaac. Hot diggity. You know this must be good.
It's that good, Brian. It's that good. Any models you'd buy that we saw here in MS IGLOO, Brian?
That's a good question. I wouldn't mind having a Zuda. I would build a Zuda. As long as it was, the same price as like a Zaku. I think it'd go well in like a display if you had some Zakus. It'd be cool to have a Zuda in there.
How about for Apocalypse 0079?
Well, the Big Rang would be incredibly difficult to build. I don't think they would ever make a Big Rang model. It's too big.
Even if they did, I don't think I'd want one. But just for fun, I think I'd like an Ogo.
Like a little chibi Ogo?
I'll say that. More interesting than a ball.
Yeah, it would be fun to have like an Ogo versus ball display. like they're like locked in grapple dueling.
Battle over Luna.
I don't think I would build Kuspen's Gelgoog. I think I have enough other Gelgoogs to build in the meantime.
No.
I would like to see like a silver shiny one though. That sounds neat. Maybe if it looked more silver and shiny, I would buy it. Or I would be more interested in building it. And if I maybe saw him be more of a pilot.
Yeah. Call it true Kuspen Gelgoog or something.
Yeah.
This one is literally silver. It's metallic paint. So it's going to have a shine to it. Like Kuspen, he's kind of a flashy guy anyways, right? He walks around with his medals. We almost never see that with most Zeon officers.
I think it would be neat to see someone build the mobile diver with the Zigak, but the third version with that big beam spray thing. It would be pretty big.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Nobody has that really. That'd be an awesome thing to build.
Yeah. I think it would be something cool for them to maybe, for like Bandai to build and bring. It'd have to be like a custom. I don't think they'd ever sell that, but it would be neat for them to build it and bring it to like conventions and stuff.
But you know what? It's reachable in terms of kit bashing because you pretty much just need a model rocket, right? You need to find the right one, and then from there you just cylinders. You turn it into the diver, and then you just buy a Zigak, and you're halfway there. You're most of the way there.
Yeah, and the Zigak actually had a cool color scheme. It was like a light blue. I definitely like that more than the Char color scheme.
Yeah, they wanted to make sure it could blend in the ocean at this point in the war because they're not exactly able to find Zigaks anywhere. Running out of parts, buddy.
Yeah.
You don't have enough good things to say about this part of MS IGLOO. We've seen the first part. It was great. This part now is great. I would have liked more even. It would have been cool to see them do more tests. Maybe they'll release the MS IGLOO, the mobile evaluation team secret files or something.
There is a manga, but I'm not sure if it's just an adaptation of the show or if it's actually a side story manga. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, but it'd be cool to see May again or find out what happened to Cadillac or Proch now, Maybe we can see May getting some adventures in Axis or... I don't know, Proch now training some Neo Zeon captains on how it's done, or Cadillac being a little inspirational to, Haman or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, these characters definitely have that feeling because they are hero characters in the vein of like a Federation, protagonist or like good guy, right? They have that quality where you kind of want to see them again in something. Like they're all alive, so... It would be cool if they pop up somewhere down the road. And this is Gundam, so there's always like side story ideas floating out there. Who knows? Maybe someone somewhere someday will use them again in some, one-off manga, which would be pretty neat. I think it'd be a good use of the characters.
MS IGLOO, Axis Chronicles.
There you go. See?
The story continues.
It opens with them docking to Delaz's Guazine.
Yeah, and they're like, why were you leaving? He says, you won't believe what happened on the bridge of the Dolos. Sit down, Proch. Now you're gonna want to be seated when I tell you exactly what went down. From now on, we can't keep beam rifles in the bridge.
Not a good idea.
Yeah. You never know when someone's gonna get shot in the head.
And I mean right in the head, right between the eyes.
From behind. It was a good shot, but still. Were they actually on like a viewport looking out into space, or was that on the electronic screen? Because if Kystelia missed, would everybody on the bridge have died from decompression?
It's a good question. I think they were out in space, right? Weren't they like in the dock, just kind of floating?
Damn, she really wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
Man.
Gotta seize, carpe diem, seize the day, seize the moment.
Yeah, she says, if I miss, I miss, but if I kill him, I kill him.
That would be really awkward if she missed.
Yeah, she was like, damn it, we're all gonna die now.
Good thing she had her Zeon standard issue life canceller with her.
Oh, yeah. From the plants, straight from the plants. A Zeon laser life canceller.
Hers seems to work much better than the plants did.
Yeah. Oh, the plants. We'll return one day. Not soon, though.
Will we?
Wrap us out, Brian.
All right, everybody. Please leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of MS IGLOO Apocalypse 0079. Let us know who your favorite character is, your favorite weapon that was tested in this series, and just your overall thoughts on, how it went for Zeon. Did you think this was a good addition to the lore? We really enjoyed it, so we hope you enjoy it too. If you haven't already seen it, we recommend go check it out immediately. You can get it on Blu-ray, and I think, like Isaac said, a quick YouTube search could lead to some good alternatives for you. So please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you later.